Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Hannah, and this is I just called it Maintaining Frame because I wasn't really sure what to call it. So that's what we're doing with Maintaining Frame number 152, Disaster for Feminists. Dude Bros are taking over the patriarchy. Where we're going to be looking at I don't know if this is a request from one of our patrons, but I assume it is because it's Bryrony Claire, and for some reason we have some pretty sick puppies in our patrons that like to get the worst examples of, well, I don't know, whatever this is to respond to. So Hannah, how are you doing? I guess I should start with
Oh
that.
gosh, yeah, this is a good day to ask because I'm actually up during the day today. I had a day shift this morning, so usually I'm up all night and I sleep all day. It's that kind of lifestyle because I work at night. So I am raring to go. We'll see what this lady has to say.
Okay. All right. Well,
at least her eyebrows look like natural eyebrows for the most part that just have like mascara on them or something.
I guess that's a good start.
Yeah.
So do you know who Bryrony Claire is?
I do not.
Okay. Well, she is I think she's either Australian or from New Zealand. It's one or the other. And she's a feminist, obviously.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I could
basically, she's a descendant of Brits.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could add that she's also socialist communist, but I think that's just redundant. I mean, generally feminists start by talking about men, and then when you say, so how do we solve this problem? They go, well, how about communism? So like that's kind of her thing, you know.
The worst feminists that I run into are from the southern hemisphere. Almost every single time. Like I run into English feminists and they're not so bad. I run into German feminists even and they're not so bad. You know, in Germany they have that reputation for everybody being so harsh, right? Russian feminists don't seem to be horrible people. Like they're no worse at least than American feminists, except you run into feminists from Australia, feminists from South America, feminists like those guys are just, I don't know, they're full of hellfire and brimstone, but it's all over stupid shit. And they have to make shit up and they get mad anytime they don't look like total victims. So if you tell me she's from like Australia or New Zealand, I'm predisposed to maybe suspect that we're in for some serious dipshittery.
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
Oh boy.
Yes, sir, ma'am. Okay, so yeah, so we've done a couple of responses to Bryrony Claire. Now, lately, she's been on a bit of a tear, specifically trying to go after the manosphere. And of course, I'm putting that in quotes because when feminists say the manosphere, they're basically referring to any men who have influence on social media that disagrees with them. And that's it. That's it. That's the definition. It's not necessarily pickup artists. It's not necessarily men's rights activists. In fact, she'll do anything to avoid talking about MRAs because she knows that it wouldn't go well for her. So instead, you know, as usual, they cherry pick. They find like the best version of the straw man they imagine, and then they attack that. And that usually doesn't work out. But anyway, this video is called Reject Modernity, Return to Dude Bro, where she is essentially saying that, yes, so that the rise in dude bro culture, I guess, or rejection in feminism, because it's kind of what it is. It's feminism has a pretty bad PR right now, at least as it's in its most, like, let's say, easiest to refute form. I wouldn't say altogether because I know there's lots of, you know, what people call covert feminists, but I mean, basically we're still all operating under the same default settings. It's just that some feminists go way outside of that and they're like, hey, that's crazy. Come back over here with this feminism. And then people go back to that. But we're going to be looking at her video. And before we do, I'm going to ask you guys to please, you know, consider subscribing and sharing the video and giving it a like so that we can reach more people, especially if you're watching in the vertical chat. because we are at war with the algorithm all the time, and it is basically a Sisyphean task to like get our videos seen and reach more people. So I'd appreciate that if you could, and if you want to send us a message and you don't want to basically give Google your money, then go to feedthebadger.com/just the tip. It's the best way to send a message, and it will not be censored. We will read it on air. We will give you priority, and they won't take any of the money. We get most of what you send. I think a little bit goes to like the service we use, but it's a fraction of what it would cost to send a super chat. And sometimes YouTube just takes your money and won't even give us the super chat.
Do it to us,
yeah. So try that. Okay. So with all that said, I guess we're going to get into the video now. So I think I'll start with Bryrony Claire's introduction, and I'll let her say, just so she sets the stage. Yeah, here we go.
Have you noticed this shift happening too? Men wielding chainsaws over their heads. Dude bros of Doge running into government departments and saying that people are fired. So many bros celebrating Andrew Tate going to America and then going back to Romania where, funnily enough, it's really hard to be able to get a conviction on him, isn't it?
All right. I'm just...
Let's start with the fact that chainsaws have been around for a very long time, and there have been images and video of men wielding chainsaws over their head just for various reasons for forever, for as long as chainsaws have been a thing outside of medicine. But yeah, I don't understand where she's going with this.
Oh, well, she's okay. So the thing is, the image of the chainsaw in the hands of Elon Musk, Javier Milei, whatever. It's essentially, she sees it as a symbol of masculinity, and that's why she's disgusted by it. It's really that simple.
She's upset that the men are masculine and not
men. Yeah, men are masculine. Men use chainsaws to cut down trees. Probably a man invented the chainsaw. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that a man probably invented it, and he did it for the purpose.
Men invented the chainsaw. That's true. A man invented the chainsaw in order to do the first C-section birth. Because it's it wasn't the great big chainsaw. It's like a little device like that. But of course, it was quickly figured out. Hey, we could use this for other things because it can cut bone. So it was invented for surgery, basically. And then they figured out, if it'll cut bone, it'll cut wood. This will be useful, and it became a thing. But yeah.
My point is that men made the chainsaw essentially as a way to better serve civilization, which includes women, because it has all kinds of purposes, and it's not just like me have penis, me celebrate penis, but this woman can't do anything except that. She can only see it in terms of, you're just like, you're just indulging in being masculine. And that's the thing, like, women don't understand that what it means to be a man is different. And for us, it's good. Like, it's better that men like being men. Whatever that is. I'm not saying that there's I'm not making it to a little box. I'm saying that there's a broad umbrella of what is considered what it means to be a man, yes, but it's not generally what women like, and for women like this, at least, that attack it constantly. So, but yeah, so there's that, and then the Andrew Tate thing. Again,
everybody knows that they just use Andrew Tate as a sort of a generic demon anymore.
Yeah, but so she's saying that essentially they didn't get a conviction, as though that's what should have happened. So when you listen to what she says, a surprise that they didn't get a conviction. But like, on what grounds are you basing this? Because if I remember correctly, we looked at the case and there was nothing to convict him with.
Yeah.
Now I don't.
And also he was in an area where courts that are actually corrupt were desperately trying to convict him. So they couldn't cheat their way into convicting him, not much less, convict him legitimately. And the reason was because the alleged victims did not cooperate. because they didn't consider themselves to be victims. Other people filed complaints on their behalf. Another woman filed complaints on their behalf, and this doesn't work. You can't do that. If somebody doesn't see themselves as a crime victim, if they've consented to the thing that you don't like that they're doing, and in order to be a crime victim, they have to be scammed or forced into it, then you really can't get a conviction that way. And I mean, the guy's not guilty of a crime. So they're mad because they don't like the way that he talks about women. And I think a lot of them take it personally.
Oh,
They're taking
absolutely.
it personally because he's right
Absolutely.
about them.
Yes,
I
they
like
absolutely do. It's like,
I don't put a lot of stock in anything the guy says, one way or another. It's not offensive to me, and it's not gospel to me. It's just stuff that somebody says, just opinions, right?
right.
But I can't really take it personally because he's not talking about me.
Yeah, but a lot of, well, I don't know how many, but there are a lot of women that they see criticism of a woman, whatever it is, as a personal attack on them. I don't know why they
Well,
do that. It's a weird thing that women do, though.
a lot of times it's because they are the women the critic is talking about, even if they're not talking about them by name. When you talk about women who are abusive, and you describe the behaviors that abusive women usually engage in, you'll
Mhm.
get women who engage in those kind of behaviors flooding your comments and yelling about, this is misogyny. You're just ragging on women. You're just saying bad things. What about the men? What do abusive men do?
Yeah.
And it's the women that take it personally because they fit the description. And, if a woman doesn't fit the description, then it pretty much disarms Tate. Nothing he
Yeah.
says has any meaning at that point.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just words. Well, okay.
Right.
So before we continue, there was something I forgot to do. There was a super chow that you guys got yesterday at the end of the show that I should read out before we continue. So Richard Bier gave us $5. It was stuck in the tubes for some reason. And he says, Doc, the sky can take on a greenish cast during tornado conditions. It won't be a clear sky, but the cloudy overcast can have an almost pea soup green color to it. If you ever see it,
Yeah,
you might want to take shelter. I know. I was
he was
I was
being
listening to the
pedantic.
show. Richard Bier, what? No, get out of here. Okay, let's.
But yeah, this woman, I know why she's mad about the lumberjack thing, right? She's afraid that he's gonna crank it up and cut it down and cut her down to size.
No, really what I think it is when Elon Musk was, because she also talked about Doge. When Elon
Yeah.
Musk was using the chainsaw as a symbolic chainsaw to cut government waste. See, people like this, they hate that because they're
Mm.
statists. They love the government, and she wants more of it. In fact, there isn't enough of it. And to come in and actually give taxpayers back their money that's being spent on, like, gender studies, underwater basket weaving in Afghanistan, well, that's not okay. Like that,
Yeah.
that money should go there, not in your pocket. You don't know what's best with your own resources, right? You have to give that to the
Oh, it's worse
government,
than that.
and the government can do it. Well, I know it's worse than
Y
that,
you
but
know, what they're really mad about is not being able to promote genocide in Africa. Most of these
yeah,
feminists don't realize that, but your tax dollars, if you live in the United States, through USAID, your tax dollars were going to pay to sterilize African men and to provide abortions for African women.
yeah,
Very targeted.
essentially. I'm sure, but I mean, they're doing that in this country. I mean, like
Yeah,
with
they
at
are
least
doing
with
that
the
in this
women,
country as
right?
well.
So
And
yeah,
it highly is targeted toward African Americans too,
yes, it
and
is.
Mexican Americans.
Or at least they're the ones responding to the propaganda in the affirmative. But
Well, there's
okay,
two things going on. There's the propaganda, and then there's also the fact that if you want to go to a clinic, you're more likely to find it in a neighborhood that is predominantly black. And they're being built there to target the neighborhood, not
hmm,
because there are more women there that want abortions.
sure, sure. All right, let's play some more.
court delay tactics are happening there.
You know, I'm not convicted of any crimes. I'm a free person who has not been convicted of anything, just as the same as you are.
So many companies gleefully removing their woke DEI policies, so they're no longer forced to have.
Yes, please. More of this. I'm like, what are you threatening me with a good time? Everything that she's listing, I'm like, yeah, that's good. So removing government waste, thanks to Doge, slashing all of this government bloat garbage, okay? Andrew Tate not going to jail because he wasn't found guilty, okay? And DEI policies being removed from companies. Again, they're not really removing them. They're just sort of like changing the language. But the point is, at least like on paper, that's what it looks like. And she is just like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. But okay, let's keep going.
Have to include everybody. Zuckerberg's transformation from this pale dude with far too much sunscreen on, or this guy that was like cowering in a court, to letting his hair grow out, wearing a gold chain and going on Joe Rogan. And also suddenly just dropping this video, which his staff weren't even aware of that he was going to be doing, saying that they're getting rid of fact checking and that so many more things are going to be allowed on the site now.
That's great.
I mean, again,
is,
I don't even know that it's really going to be like that much different. Like most of this stuff I'm taking with a grain of salt. And I think that anybody, if you're watching, you should too. But she's still like, her hair is on fire over this. But
yeah, the sad thing is she's really, she's scared of the wrong things because she doesn't understand what's coming. Like all this stuff that she's talking about is very minor. And there's not a whole lot of actual change taking place behind the big, words about change that have been spoken. But the the sleeping dog has been awakened. Women decided they weren't going to let the sleeping dog lie. The men that were funding everything that women asked for through feminism have been just quietly paying their taxes for 100 years. And now, after everything that's happened, a lot of them have awakened to the fact that they're being taxed to pay for their own downfall. They're being taxed to pay for the state to abuse them. They're being taxed to pay for their employers to discriminate against them, or their family courts to discriminate against them. And the next generations of men have figured it out at a much younger age than our generation did. And I think they're going to put the kibosh to all of that. And these women who have their hair on fire because companies aren't going to use the term DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion to describe their political correctness policies. That's nothing. Wait until these guys figure out a way to cut off all your funding. Wait until they overturn VAWA, and send it back to the days of the Family Violence Prevention and Services Act being the family violence law, and nothing was gendered, and feminist research wasn't being paid for by the federal government. And so if you made an allegation and you were lying, the guy that you accused would get due process. And if you were abusive and the cops were called, they wouldn't have to arrest your victim as a woman. Like, they think their hair's on fire now, but if I could still eat popcorn, I'd have a huge bucket full of it ready for what's coming.
Yeah. Sorry, JoJo's barking at something. Can you do something about JoJo, please? Okay.
I'm hoping. I'm just hoping for. I'm hoping it will be every bit as glorious as the screaming temper tantrums they threw when Trump got elected.
Well, we're still getting that. Go to TikTok.
Oh yeah,
they're still crying about it. Like, women are just the Handmaid's Tale is coming, guys. Yeah. It's coming. We promise. Time.
My favorite ones are the main character syndrome videos where they have, the strong girl anthem playing in the background, and the whole video is just them putting on red lipstick.
Yeah. Right. Like, they're ready to fight. They're going to fight the battle. They're going to be the resistance.
That's the protest. The protest is they put on a different color of lipstick. Oh no.
Yeah.
Now
it's like when they got little like blue heart. Yeah, when they got little blue heart tattoos. You know, it's all, you know what? If that's what you guys, ladies, want to do, if you just want to like do this sort of performative solidarity stuff, go nuts. Just let
They're
us
already
men
nuts.
get to work on fixing the country. You go ahead and do your performative bullshit, and we'll see you in 4 years when nobody dies and none of the shit that you're expecting is going to happen. But hey, you'll have your little blue heart tattoos. You'll be wearing the nail polish. Everybody's going to get the same nail polish, so we know we're on the same team. Go ahead. It's ridiculous. But anyway,
we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with.
So it says here she's trying to like contrast what Mark Zuckerberg is calling for, which I, again, without knowing whether or not it's actually going to be implemented, what he's saying is good. If we just look at what he's saying, and she's contrasting it with this article. It says Meta's policy changes on hateful conduct put marginalized groups at risk. The Online Safety Act 2023 are in breach of duties to prevent and protect users from harm. In particular, these changes allow LGBTQ plus persons to be called mentally ill, transgender people to be called it, and women to be referred to as property in user-to-user communications on Meta's platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. Oh no, somebody burned the Constitution because a woman's crying on the internet.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Just laugh, guys. Just laugh. Okay.
Mainstream discourse.
Men win again. And yes, we control your bodies.
These rowdy riots happening and
She like totally like the women ate that up.
You know
They
what's
ate
funny?
that up. Like it was a guy talking shit on the internet. And the women act like he was in the room with them with a gun to their head saying, we own your bodies.
I picture these women thinking that all of a sudden he now has them with strings like a marionette. Just walk you over here. Walk you over here.
Women have no power over anything. Like that's
No
ultimately
agency.
what these always come down to is that, what is she ultimate, like no matter how many clips she shows, the only thing she's showing us is words online and nothing actually happening. Like no actual policy, no cops kicking the door down, no like men invading your spaces physically, nothing like that. Mostly it's people saying, oh, all these policies are going to make it to where the government's going to be less involved in my life. I like this. And she's like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah, she'd be okay with the government being less involved in her life. She just doesn't want it to be less involved in everybody else's.
Yeah, exactly.
She wants to be able to use it as she sees fit.
Yeah, I got a super chow from Great Indoors. Thank you, Great Indoors. He gives us $5 and says, did women invent the coat hanger only for men to realize that they could be used to hang coats on them?
No, women didn't invent the chainsaw. Men did. But it was invented for medical treatment for women. So
okay. I guess there's a little bit more to this.
Minecraft movie.
Oh yes, right. She even, this is a stretch, okay? She even uses the chaos that's been occurring in movie theaters when the Minecraft movie came out, and there's just a bunch of rowdy people.
Yeah, I was gonna say I kept hearing about this Minecraft chaos, but I never heard anything about what actually happened.
Well, it's just like people being rowdy in the theater, throwing popcorn and stuff like that, and shouting. This kind of stuff happens. Like
at every movie.
Well, I guess in particular, this either became newsworthy because of the scale, or because it had been a while, or because of something unique with the Minecraft movie. Because the truth is that there's been no enthusiasm for movies since before COVID. So
I haven't been to a movie theater in a while, but back in the day when I used to go to movie theaters all the time, like that was pretty normal in a lot of the neighborhoods. We go to the second run theaters. There are always people who are up to all kinds of shenanigans.
Yeah, this is the primary run theaters, and I've been to those second run theaters, and I know what you're talking about. But this is more intense than that. but it probably marks like maybe like a little side story, you know, maybe on a slow news day or something. But I don't think it's like catastrophic. It's just kind of like, wow. And again, I think it's because it's been so long since there's been anything in the theater that people want to watch, and you have to consider the audience for the Minecraft movie. Like, how old are these people? How much experience do they have? And look at this too. If you're 12 and you went to see the Minecraft movie, and that means that you lived through COVID where you couldn't leave your house, you couldn't even go to school. So these kids were, I think, emotionally or socially stunted by the lockdowns, and this is their way of like, you know, kind of cutting loose. And again, like, I see theaters as like a social event, but a lot of times, you know, it's been so long since people have been to them, partly because there's nothing in them worth watching, but also because of the lockdown. So
I'm used to, like, you know, they have to have a message at the beginning to reduce the amount of times people talk during the movie. And because it doesn't eliminate it. There's always people that talk during the movie. And then you also have, like, it's not just people talking to each other, you know, it's don't go in there, like that kind of thing. And then there's always, if the ushers come through during the movie, it's usually to pull out some teenage couple that's in the back
making
row
out
having
or
sex or something.
Yeah. But again, this is something, all of this would be stuff we'd frown on. But I don't think, but what I'm saying is it's got nothing to do with masculinity.
No,
I mean,
it's
that's
not
like
really
she's
anything to do
trying
with
to
masculinity.
make a correlation. But let's listen to her thoughts on that.
Screenings because of this chicken jockey trend, which the director of the movie even endorses.
It's weird when you're having too much fun and the cops get called. I'm just glad people are making memories with their friends and families.
I feel so sorry for all of those minimum wage workers. The US government...
So the Minecraft movie is developing a cult following then, kind of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but with different messes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean,
funny.
It's a different audience. It's a different generation. Again, I don't know. Like, she's trying to make this about men. I don't think it has anything to do with that. And that's the important part, right? But anyway, maybe like mostly boys play it. I mean, then you'd have to admit that mostly boys are gamers, but that's tough for her because she has to basically assume that, oh, no, it's like mostly girls because I need this to work for my agenda. You can't say that. But yeah, anyway.
Targeting and removing inclusive language from so many documents from all across the judicial branches. As Rebecca Fielding Miller, a USCD public health scientist, said, "If I can't say the word women, I can't tell you that an abortion ban is going to hurt women." She also...
Well, go ahead.
The idea of inclusive language is sort of a it's newspeak. Because when they say inclusive language, they actually mean language that excludes the norm.
Yes, of course. It's all, they always project, they always lie, they always double down, and it's always the inversion of what they intend. And also, Arwa Madawi got a shout out. Holy cow! Look at that. You made it, Arwa Madawi. You have arrived. You got a shout out from her saying women is not allowed, but men and white are okay. I'm not shocked. This is how you know. This is the quality of her arguments. She's quoting The Guardian, and more than that, Arwa Madawi of The Guardian. Okay. Anyway.
Also noted it was illuminating to see which words hadn't been flagged as problematic. I guess a word that's not on here is man, and another word I don't see on here is white. So I guess we'll see what's going on with white men and what they need. Famous sports stars and all sorts of comedians in Australia making IPV jokes on stage to raucous.
So these, again, jokes. Look at this.
We'll see what's going on with white men and what they need. Famous sports stars.
Okay, so this is like a sports guy, and he's saying, footballer Kurt Mann casually takes the piss, I guess, out of domestic violence. She put like a thing on there. It says, didn't put the dishes in the dishwasher. Okay, like, what? I don't get who's the butt of the joke, though. He's the guy with the black eye. Is this supposed to be, is it just the act of like making something into a joke that's the problem? I don't know.
Yep, they get very upset about that, and it's because there has to be a particular level of mystique around a subject that they can use to control law and policy and garner a lot of money. the domestic violence victims advocacy industry and the domestic violence response training industry, and also the same with the sexual violence response training industry and the consent training industry, as well as the victims advocacy industry. There are trillions of dollars, probably more, spent around the world on these industries. They make bank. We always joke around about women that take gender studies as their course of study. Do you want fries with that degree? But the reality is, they make as much per year as CEOs of like Fortune 500 companies, except all they have to do is go to 6 meetings a year or something like that, and just sit in and listen to the reports of everybody involved, and then say, okay, we'll meet again, in a couple of months and see how we're doing. And it's all like they get paid a bunch of money. The people that are running the agencies get a bunch of money. The people who are representatives that go into court with women, they get paid. And it's definitely more than I'm getting paid, and I take care of people all year round. So this isn't something that's a small thing to them. And if you joke about their sacred cow, which they milk for everything they can get out of it, that's making it a less serious issue in their eyes. And if it's a less serious issue, they can't milk it as much.
Yes.
And so they get very upset about that.
Yeah, they need it to remain super. This is why these people are humorless.
Yeah.
This is why they can't meme. But okay, I mean, it's. I'm not offended that the guy's making light of men being victimized by women. I'm not like I'm gonna sleep just fine.
Well,
But
and
the fact that
as somebody
she's like
who's been
making
a
a big
victim, I'm not upset about it either.
yeah,
I think it's better to be able to ridicule the behavior instead of treating it like it's, sanctified and we can't say anything about it.
yes, I agree with that. Okay.
And all sorts of comedians in Australia making IPV jokes on stage to raucous applause.
Sometimes need a good smack on your face. I'd like to say hitting women in an RSL is completely wrong and unacceptable. There's way too many cameras in that place, and I was very fucking stupid on his.
And Harvey
Like really? Like we're upset.
That's all the worse it was.
That was it. That was it. Like I mean, God, thank God this woman doesn't run their government. Although somebody like her probably does. That guy's gonna get arrested. They're probably
People
gonna
don't understand the point of inappropriate humor. The humor is in the fact that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. That is so stupid.
Yeah, well,
it's
no.
not in that you
She-
think that the horrifying thing is funny. It's
Mhm.
funny that you didn't think of it as fun as horrifying.
Well, yeah, that's not even an uncommon like way of telling jokes.
No.
She just doesn't like it because it threatens the framing that feminists try to establish over essentially the control over your language. It's ultimately what
Right.
it is. So if you can't tell
And-
jokes about things that are inappropriate,
Yeah.
well, I wouldn't say inappropriate, but
And the
let's
seriousness that
say
fuels
edgy.
their,
I would just say edgy. It's just an edgy
Yeah.
joke. If you can't tell edgy jokes, then you can't laugh. Like that's. I'm sorry, but like we need that, and she doesn't want people laughing. She wants us all demoralized. Like that's what she wants. This
Yeah.
is what their ideology wants.
Well,
Okay,
and she
so
wants
now
any mention of
Mhm.
these types of issues or these types of subject matters to elicit more terror and support for funding of feminist causes.
Yeah. All right. Next is Harvey Weinstein. This is another sign of the apocalypse for women.
Weinstein's retrial is starting up again, and we're in a very different environment to Me Too. In fact, a lot of this is a backlash to Me Too, as we can see from comment sections. And guess who is part of propagating the idea that Harvey Weinstein is actually innocent? Candace Owens, but also now, of course, Joe Rogan.
It's crazy.
said it
So I
first.
can't believe I'm on
It
Harvey
could be.
Weinstein's side.
What we were saying it way back. Yeah,
Yeah.
when it first happened, that was one of the first things we talked about was, wait a minute, is this sexual assault or is this Harvey Weinstein making an offer to women to make them famous in exchange for sexual favors and women saying yes to that? which is like obviously the case. Like, why would a guy like that need to do that to women when there are women willing to line up around the corner to be made famous by him? And they all thanked him. Like at award shows, they were like, thank God for him and all this. And all of a sudden they all turned on him on a dime when the Me Too thing started up.
Remember, we saw that video. It's not even as cut and dried as, well, I'll make you famous if you do this or that. They're already in the process of being made famous. And, he flirts and he asks for consent to flirt. And then he flirts. And it goes wherever it goes, wherever they let it go. And we watched that lady that went to interview him. And one of the first things he said is, "Can I flirt?" So he asked and she consented. And then he flirted. And everything that happened after that, she had video of it. She portrayed that as him victimizing her. And throughout the whole thing, I kept going back to the beginning. Like, she consented and she never turned around and said, okay, this is where the line is. Okay, I did consent to flirting, but not beyond this point. You can't do anything beyond this point. So, she didn't say no touching. She didn't say don't do that. Nothing like that. She didn't even let him know she was uncomfortable if she was. So,
well, yeah, but the point is, it was all consent, and it was all.
There's a huge difference between. There's a huge difference between a situation where somebody says, "Can I do this?" and you say, "Yeah, go right ahead," and then you later regret it. And when somebody tramples over you and won't take no for an answer. One is minor regret. You learned to be more vocal. You learned maybe not to agree to things that later on you're going to look back on and say, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But it's still, maybe I shouldn't have done that, right? As opposed to, oh my God, I'm traumatized. My entire will was taken away from me and I didn't want this to happen and it happened anyway. Very huge difference. And when women portray the latter as no different than the former, they are insulting every one of us who has been through the latter.
Yeah.
Grab him by the pussy.
Well, again, it was consensual. And obviously Harvey Weinstein's not even, first of all, he's not the only way women can become famous in Hollywood. They have plenty of other ways. We've had Lisa Brighton on the show who talked at length about this. The whole industry just works this way. And the casting couch is something we just know exists. So, but here's the thing that I want to say, because we've talked about this like ad nauseum. But the one thing I will say about this is that we knew that Harvey Weinstein, the case against him was sketchy from the get-go. And we were talking about it on here, right? With all the caveats that, like, I'm not a fan of the guy. He's probably really woke. He's like any other male feminist, but that doesn't mean that we throw him under the bus just because we disagree with his beliefs, right? And so we didn't. I stood up for him on principle because I knew that wasn't how it went. But because very few people were willing to say the truth about that, and I think up until very recently, guys like Joe Rogan and Candace Owens both just went along with the narrative that he was obviously doing this to women. And only recently have they come around on that. But it doesn't matter because now the mainstream opinion on Weinstein is that he's a monster. That's just the mainstream opinion. Like, you ask any normal person on the street about it, and they're going to be like, oh, no, he's the guy who did all that to all those women. Oh, no, that guy's a monster.
Yeah.
Indefensible.
And then when you ask them all that, what all that? Who were the victims? What happened? What were the specific cases? They can't tell you. They don't even know.
No, of course not. They just know what the media told them over and over and over. And not just the media, but like the sort of the mechanisms of the media that act on behalf of it, like people like feminists online like Bryrony Claire, who basically just repeat the narrative. Even she doesn't even probably know the names of the victims or what the evidence is or anything, because she heard, this a man in Hollywood did this to women. Oh, okay. I saw that Alyssa Milano and Rose McGowan were crying on camera. Yeah, he must have done it. He did it. Like, I'm just gonna go along with it. And anybody who even questions that is obviously like just like that monster that I've created in my mind. And so
Yeah.
when she says, I can't believe these people are defending him, she doesn't even, in her mind and the mind of her audience, she doesn't even have to make the case as to why that's ridiculous to her, because we all just operate under the assumption, oh yeah, he's guilty. So why are they why is Joe Rogan saying that? It's crazy. And it's like,
Well, for her,
Rogan's just late to the party.
for her, Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby and any other guy that's been prosecuted during the last 10 years
Yeah.
as part of this wave of I don't know what to call it exactly. We always call it being Cosby'd because Bill Cosby was the first guy to really be famous for it, where they just pile on allegation after allegation. But there have been other men before him that it's happened to.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
yeah.
you know, like just the wave of false allegations. And these guys were their trophies in a war on men, right? These guys were they put their head and antlers up on a wall. Maybe even their front legs with their hooves, you know, up like this. But it was there for them specifically as evidence of, look, we won the gender war. We can accuse men of anything, and it doesn't matter whether they did it or not, whether they did all of the elements or not, whether they did the criminal elements of it or not. We can ruin them and put all other guys on notice, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And now those trophies are falling off the wall one by one, and they're terrified because it's not the trophy that they're upset about. It's the power that trophy represented that is falling with that trophy.
Yeah, they're losing control over the narrative. That's what this is.
Yeah.
This is when like men, or at least like essentially the people who are not feminists, they are waking up and they are being more vocal and they are not putting up with it anymore. And people like Bryrony Claire are losing control over the narrative and they're freaking out. And that's what this video, all of her videos lately have been that. It's just like, and of course, whenever like people with common sense start making gains and they start fighting back, feminists use that to say, look, see, we were never in power. Like, so like, you know, it's like this endless, it's like this endless loop that we have to just deal with. And that's why you know, you have to just tell them, look, man, just cope. You've lost. Take the L. It's over. Just cope. Okay. But anyway, let's listen to the more of the intro here.
Right?
And I have to keep on coming into the editing room because it's just been revealed that a game was released on Steam, which is specifically about incest, where the developers said it's a 3D choice-driven adult vision.
Okay, so see, this is another stretch. So there's on Steam, there are games for adults. Okay, like they exist. Is that controversial? I would say no. But there are adult games.
Can get them.
They're adults only games. There's lots of them, I'm sure. And there's this one that was the subject of some controversy. It was abandoned in Australia, called No Mercy, which is a visual novel with a focus on, I guess, like, you know, I don't know. It's like male domination. It's sort of a
male domination and rough sex. Is that it?
A rough sex or rape fantasy or whatever. And you know, you have to like subdue a woman in it. I don't really know. All I know is it made a lot of people. It rustled some jimmies for existing. Now there's lots of really cringe stuff on Steam because Steam is a completely, as far as I know, it's a completely open platform. Maybe with some limitations, you know, for really, really extreme stuff. And a lot of people make different content and they all have different tastes.
Yeah.
And, you know, and like God knows, but this one, because it's because of what it is about. Oh, it's incest, actually. Incest and male domination.
That's kind of gross.
It's
but
gross.
I mean, what? That's their choice. Like, if you don't like it, don't download the game.
Yeah, not my thing. Not my thing. But the point is that not that this exists and that, like, you know, that it's on Steam, but the problem is that, of course, this is somehow tied to men and masculinity, which
I most certainly would remind people that this company is centered in the United States, right?
Steam, yes.
All right.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
It is not illegal to talk about incest. It's gross, but it's not illegal. It's illegal to plan it. It's illegal to engage in it. So you can have a game that portrays it, because that's just considered speech or expression. Just like you can have a game that centers around committing Grand Theft Auto. You can have a game that centers around going around town, crashing into things and killing people, and I don't know, shooting hookers and whatever else you have to do in that game. It's another one that I really never got into, and it wasn't my bag of chips. But why get upset about it existing? Just don't buy it if you don't like it.
Well, it's useful to her agenda, though.
But
That's why. But
were you
Visual
part of
novel, but
the? Were you part of the group that was in conversation when we watched a game? We went through a game that a feminist had made, called "The Day the Laughter Stopped."
no.
Okay,
I don't-
so
Or if I did, was it a long time ago?
yeah,
Okay.
I made the response video to it in 2014.
The day the laughter stopped. How is a
Yeah.
feminist making a game? I assume that you don't have a lot of like control.
It was a walking simulator.
Yeah, well, okay, that's what I thought.
So,
yeah.
and it was a text-based walking simulator, no less. It was like multiple
Gross.
choice. But the worst part of it, so it's multiple choice, right? You pick your path, except no matter what path you pick, it takes you down the same path. So if you choose not to do something, it happens anyway. And then at the end, it's announced to you that you've just been through a rape scenario, except in the scenario, the choices that were taken away from you were not taken away from you by the alleged perpetrator. They were taken away from you by the story writer. So it's not this person does this thing to you and you can't stop them. It's you can't stop yourself from doing these things with this person. You don't have it, and then the will to control.
That's usually
your
how
actions.
those. Yeah, that's usually how those
And,
activist games go.
Yeah,
You're just forced to participate against your will because they
He
want you to
put-
feel a certain way.
the writer of the game, who created it because of a story that his friend had told him about her experience that she thought was rape. He creates this game to communicate to women all over, girls and women all over, that if you do something with somebody by your own choice and you feel bad about it later, that means you've been raped.
Mhm.
And you go through this pick your path thing, this walking simulator, making these choices, and then the character does the other thing that you didn't choose. And all the while behind it is this rendition of the funeral march playing the whole time. Dun, dun, dun,
Oh my
dun,
God.
dun,
Yeah,
dun, 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 dun. And I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. And so as we're discussing it and everything, and like all the gals in the group are discussing, "Oh, this is a rape simulator. Why in the heck would anybody?" And I'm like, no, it's not, because there was no rape in the game.
Yeah.
It never got to the point where her willpower was overridden by something that the alleged perpetrator did to her. But that type of thing, that type of fantasy, feminists write that shit all the time, right? And they use it to make statements. They use it to demonize the entire male population by virtue of their portrayal of something that is incredibly rare among either men or women. Usually is only done by profoundly disturbed individuals who have been through abuse of their own and who grew up in violent environments, and who basically their life lessons took them to a place where that's the way they get what they want. And that's very rare in human behavior. But it's perfectly acceptable to them that they can do that to everybody. But
Yeah.
you get a niche group of people that wants to play this gross thing that the rest of us are not into. And they're not trying to involve the rest of us. They're not dragging anybody into it. They're not surprising you with this game showing up on your computer and playing itself without your permission or anything like that. And yet they're very upset about this. How dare those people be allowed to have their whatever their fantasy is that leads to this, how dare they be allowed to indulge in that without some sort of repercussions? If there's no victim involved, then we'll be the victims and we'll be upset about it. Why? Because
Yeah.
you're.
Yeah. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. All right, let's listen to some more.
A huge focus on incest and male domination. After your mother's affair shatters your family, you take on a new role, not to fix what's broken, but to claim her for yourself, unveil her deepest secrets, subdue her, and make all women yours. I know the game's been pulled from Steam in Australia, but the fact it was even developed and then even made available on Steam is highly disturbing to me. Oh, and we can't forget systematic.
I'd like to know who developed it. I wonder if there were any women on that team, because I wouldn't be surprised to learn that there were. But of course, she's going to just leave that lie in a vacuum and not address it. And also, again, she has to connect this to like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Minecraft the movie. Like she's just like pulling you know what it's like the was it the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where the guy's like got the wall of like threads connecting to all these? That's what she's doing. So it's so ridiculous. Like, but anyway.
Removing bodily autonomy from people with uteruses, can we? Having less control over your body means that you get to be more.
Do you mean women when you say that?
You're
You're talking about women. I'm not playing your game.
What autonomy does a video game have?
Well, you're supposed to have control over the character. That's the thing that makes video games different from any other kind of interactive media, is that you're actually interacting with it. You're not just like a passenger. When you listen to music, you don't change what it sounds like other than adjusting the volume. When you watch a movie, you're just watching the movie. A TV show, reading a book, unless it's a choose your own adventure. Even then, though, you're sort of limited. But video games are unique because you actually are playing the game. I mean, at least most of the time. Visual novels are a thing, and I get that people are into that, but I don't think that I wouldn't call them video games unless they involve like agency. They could be just visual novels as like a separate medium. But yeah, I mean,
I think a lot of this, when we go back over some of the stuff that she said and some of the stuff I pointed out, like the feminists thinking that their main character syndrome display videos are actual protests and stuff like that. It's because they can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality. It's why they show up to protests and
ketchup bottle uniforms.
Yeah, because even though the culture that book is about has never existed in the world, they portray it as something that's possible and likely and imminent. And of course, feminists can't tell the difference between getting their panties in a bunch over that and having it be real. They can't tell the difference between saying all men are rapists and all men actually being rapists.
Mm-hmm.
They can't tell the difference between this game existing and these people actually abusing real women.
Yeah. Okay.
Reliant on men. As Chud says, this is all part of, we are making things right for us again, boys. What boys though, really? For forgotten ones like me.
She's created a character named Chud, but she doesn't hate men, guys. She doesn't hate men. She actually says, she tries to make it that case, by the way.
And is this actually helping men or boys or hurting them? Because we know it's definitely hurting women and minorities, especially the people that are bringing
ICE agents arrest tough students. Oh, well, why would they be doing that? Why would they be doing that? Yeah, are you here illegally? Like, I mean, like what? So she just shows a woman being arrested and immediately it's like, oh no, women should just never get arrested, guys. That should just never happen. Why would you? They let women break the law. They're not hurting you. I mean, other than they're breaking the law, they're not hurting you though.
Yeah.
Up the ways it hurts people, especially the people that are bringing up the statistics. Oh my goodness, how dare you? But wait, I thought that facts don't care about your feelings. More on that later. Now, this is the first in a 2-part series, so subscribe for the next one because I didn't want to make you have to sit through a 2-hour video. And for my lovely forest critters that support me on Patreon, you already have the...
What?
I said I would. I have done that before. We've gone as far as 4 hours before.
I'm yeah, I 40. This one is 43 minutes and it's way too long.
Yeah.
Extended, uncensored, director's cut, and ad-free version of this video.
Really enjoying the view here.
You going to Campbell's bachelor party?
Yeah, I want to be there before they tie an anchor on his neck, and
She'll probably be assigned to one of us.
and she'll know what she's in for. Besides, you gotta let them know what kind of guy you are, and they'll know what kind of girl to be.
Being a man, being a young man, this time right now can't be easy.
Why? Because we can't harass girls anymore?
No. Well, yeah.
It's like we're living.
Okay, so here's one thing about Bryrony Claire you should know, and this is not uncommon. A lot of feminists do this. They make references to television and movies and use them to make arguments about reality, even though television and movies are already like basically run by insane progressives that already have like, yeah, it's extremely progressive already. But feminists
was right about Hollywood. He just went about things the wrong way.
Well, he didn't do enough.
Yeah.
I would have gotten them all out of there. Take some notes from Walt Disney is what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah. So she's gonna do that. You're gonna see clips from Mad Men, American Psycho, basically her favorite movies that represent what she thinks men are actually like. And Mad Men, which we've already established, is a complete fantasy. Guys are not like that, never were.
No.
It's like that. It's a lie. But of course, it's put out there to keep women in a state of fear. Well, yeah, and it was. I liked the show when I watched it, but that's because I knew it was a show and not based in reality. But I guess the purpose of it is to make women think men could be like this again one day. So they should remain afraid of them. No, but they never were. No. Anyway.
So just because of all of that, if you're a feminist and you're watching this, I'd like to remind you right now that your whole life you've never been 3 feet away from something that a man did for you.
Yep. All right.
Through this glorification of this boys will be boys attitude, as if there's a regression to frat boy mentality, this gleeful stomping on everyone else to create this boys rule club.
This really isn't fair. We really couldn't care.
People, well, we know who.
Based.
Honestly.
I don't like. What are you? I'm sorry, but like, what argument are you trying to make? Like, I support those boys having their own treehouse
space. Yeah, you know, it's funny, you know, listening to feminists get upset about stuff like that because real feminists for years and years did sue their way into men's clubs and men's locker rooms, and you know now they go into men's restrooms. Women about half the time. If there's a line, half of women have answered that they've just barged into the men's room. Like there aren't men in there who are exposed at urinals, who might want their privacy, who might not want you staring at their dicks, who might be married or who might be underage, and just go in there, go to a stall. I'm brave. I'm female. I don't mind that you're in here. It's like, that's not the point, lady. You know, women now are fighting really hard to keep trans women out of women's bathrooms on the idea that being in the bathroom of the opposite biological sex is an attack on the people who are that biological sex that are supposed to be in there. Well, then maybe women should stop barging into men's bathrooms. Maybe women should stop insisting they have a right to be in men's locker rooms for any reason. And maybe women should stop insisting they have a right to access to men's clubs and safe spaces. Australian women are demanding entry now to men's sheds.
They're doing that in the UK. They've already done that. In the UK, they're doing that already. And it's basically like, it's completely changes the dynamic when that happens.
Yep, I have zero sympathy for the bathroom issue and zero sympathy for the sports issue because of how women have behaved toward men's sports and men's spaces over the last 50 years.
All right, let's keep going.
Will be saying that I'm doing a gender wars thing by coming out with this video. Well, if guys were kind of harassing, stalking, being...
This is gender wiffle ball. It's not gender anything. Like this, she hasn't even made a real attack here.
Well,
she's painting.
Yeah.
Like F-E-I-N-T, not F-A-I-N-T.
No,
This
I know.
whole thing is one big long feint.
Well, this is the intro still. So
this video.
Pathetic.
Well, if guys would kindly stop harassing, stalking, being violent towards and unaliving women, then I wouldn't have to have these sort of conversations, would I? Now, I
Okay,
gotta
here's what
say it
said,
right now.
nothing new. None of
Yeah,
that is
this
stuff that we
is-
haven't already debunked.
it's all so tiring. It's the
Like-
same stuff. Well, if men would stop killing women and harassing them, then I wouldn't have to have this conversation. So basically what you're saying is, why don't I have absolute and total control over every man on earth? Why don't I have that? It's like, because that's not the way
what
the
she's
world
saying
works.
is, she's saying that women should be uniquely exempt from all of the violence that takes place in the world. It can
Yeah.
happen to men, all
it-
that
but it
it's going to
invol-
happen, but
Yes, but
women
it
should be
involves-
uniquely exempt, right?
But it involves
And
women
here's
having
the-
to have control over
Yeah,
everyone's
over men.
behavior. That's what I'm
And
saying. She
here's,
wants
yeah,
control.
it wouldn't change a thing.
But
That wouldn't fix the
world doesn't
problem,
work
and
that
they know
way.
it wouldn't.
No.
But it wouldn't fix the problem, and they know it wouldn't fix the problem. It's not about fixing the problem. It's because most of the time when women get hurt, they don't get hurt the way that men get hurt. When men get hurt, they get hurt just being out in public, or they get hurt protecting someone. They get hurt taking risks that they have to take in order to feed their families. Women get hurt because they have gone into the very few places or associated themselves alone with men that other men would normally protect themselves from or protect them from. And so they've taken themselves out of the protective circle of the men around them who take care of them and provide for them and assist them in their lives that they don't appreciate. And they expose themselves not necessarily on a sexual level, but just on a not so safe level to predators, and then they get hurt. That's like, so they could make every rule they wanted to. They could make a rule that men have to wear 80-pound weights on their hands and feet, and they need a woman's key to unlock it. And the women that are getting beaten to death or stabbed or shot or whatever, they would still experience that because they themselves would be unlocking those men's weights. Right? That is what is going on. And it is very solidly the overwhelming majority of cases of intimate partner violence and sexual violence. Not every case, not cases that are done to children, but in a lot of cases where they say, most rape is acquaintance rape, or at least the individual. Some people are a lot closer than acquaintance. It's when women know there is a threat and they go there anyway, and they put themselves in a vulnerable position with the threat, and then they get hurt. They have no right to blame other men besides the person who attacked them and the person who put them in that position. So it bugs the hell out of me when feminists say this bullshit when they are the people perpetuating this. This stuff is happening because of feminists. Because they're telling women you should be able to go into these situations. You should be able to make yourself vulnerable to the biggest monster you know. And because you're a woman, even though that guy might rip another guy to shreds, he should be gentle with you because you're a woman. And that's not the way monsters work. All right?
No, that's not the way the world
insanely
works.
disturbed people work. It's not the way people who have a drug issue or an alcohol issue or a mental health issue that makes them violent. That's not how they work. They don't care about your sex.
Yeah.
You're not exempt.
Okay.
Now and early, like I always do, I do not hate men. I do not think it is all men that are doing this. I don't believe all men are bad, and I don't believe that all men are trying to hurt other people. I genuinely believe, like I said in my
Then
gratification
stop
video,
saying stuff like, if men would only stop killing us, because it's bullshit to generalize like that and then say, I'm not saying all, because you know damn well you are.
Yes, and even if you are okay, there's a little bit more to this. Hold on.
that most guys are actually curious about what they can do to make things better and safer for everybody. The issue comes
So basically, she's saying there are men that will serve my interests, i.e., men that I can control, and those men are the okay men because I can control them, but they have to serve my interests. Otherwise, they're the bad men. So basically, it's
but
either
no, we're not going to credit the men who, for centuries, we're talking so long that actually, at one point there was an age change in, I think, 13th century England, which means prior to that, there were already rape laws and there were already statutory rape laws, right? Prior to the age of consent change. For centuries, men have outlawed sexual violence against women. There were anti-wife beating laws throughout that time. Men have outlawed battering women, right? Men have outlawed taking advantage of women, right? Even corrupting women. Men, even for a long time, outlawed breaking a woman's heart. There had to be laws passed to put a stop to a type of legal action that there's a whole spectrum of them that were referred to as heart balm actions, where she might sue for breach of promise to marry, or if her husband cheated on her, she might sue for alienation of affection if he left her, things like that. For centuries, women were coddled in this way, where men didn't get the same benefits. There were no rape laws against a woman forcing a man to have sex. There weren't battery laws that specified that a wife could not beat her husband, right? It wasn't the same. In fact, if a woman beat her husband, the community would ride him around backwards on a donkey and throw things at him and hit him with like rolling pins and shit, and humiliate him for it. So not only did they not care what was happening to him, but he was ridiculed for it. So yeah, this idea that there suddenly today needs to be men stepping up. Men have been stepping up. Men have done everything they possibly can to try to eliminate all forms of violence against women. And the only thing that they have asked women to do is be careful what risks they take. Just like men have to do if they want to mitigate their risk of violence. And women won't do it.
Well,
what do you expect them to do about that? What do you expect men to do about that?
Just be better men, obviously, and police each other. Basically, she wants men to do all the work of keeping society absolutely safe and secure and have all of her needs met without her having to even ask. That's it. Like, it's just complete
They already
control.
police each other.
I know they do. No, but that doesn't matter to her. She doesn't care.
Complain.
The truth
She
doesn't
does care.
matter.
She cares
No,
a lot.
she doesn't
She
care
does
about
care.
the.
She absolutely cares. She cares, and all the other women care. When men police each other, they bitch about it like morons. That guy shouldn't have been there. That guy shouldn't have done anything. That's male violence. How dare he do that to that other guy? And when the cops show up, if she's in a domestic violence relationship, and the cops show up to arrest her husband, one of the big risks they have going into that house and taking that man out of that house is that while they're cuffing him and taking him out of the house, the woman who called them is likely to attack them for removing him. They care. They just don't care in the right way.
My point is, she's being inherently dishonest on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
what I'm saying. It's not like
She
you
is
can
being very dishonest.
if you rationalize and explain to her, look, this is why your rationality doesn't make sense. She's going to disregard it because it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. Like when I say she doesn't care, I'm saying she doesn't care about the truth. She cares about power, and that's it. Everything else is just the method to get there. Just like all leftists, that's their whole thing. Is power, 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 power. And whatever I gotta say, whatever I gotta do, however I gotta manipulate you, it doesn't matter as long as I get the power. That's all that matters. That's why I'm saying, like, we have to remember that none of the rhetoric that they say has to make sense. The only thing that makes sense is what they get. The ends justify the means. Yes.
It's
So
especially true for her because she just sounds like they took the disc out of some other feminist and inserted
yeah,
into her. She hasn't said anything unique here at all.
the same talking points that they all
Mhm.
regurgitate. Yes, and this is just an exhausting, endless cycle of refuting the same shit all the time. But anyway, she was saying that she doesn't actually hate men, guys. She just
There
wants
must be some
to
fountain of
take responsibility
stupidity.
for everything.
Like, there must totally be some fountain of stupidity that at some point in their gender studies courses they have to drink from, and then all of a sudden they think this information is new.
Yep.
And when guys are going along with all of this misogyny, you know, rather than standing up against the guys that are saying all of this stuff, rather than calling out your mates or your colleagues when they're saying sexist, racist, homophobic remarks, saying to your mates it's not okay to make IPV or rape jokes, and just shrugging off the very large issues of the world like, I just don't really care about politics. And worst of all, when these dude bros are saying that the accusation is worse than going through the assault itself. And that mindset is strangely increasingly being validated.
It is worse, and it is something that nobody who hasn't gone through a false allegation will ever fully understand. And you know, I can say this as somebody who has gone through a false allegation, not that level of false allegation. I was accused of something very minor that falls under the spectrum of disorderly conduct, and you know, since then have proved my innocence and had my record expunged and everything. But the gaslighting that happens and the experience of, you know, having everybody doubt you, the experience of having the threat that you're going to face repercussions even though you did not do the thing that you're accused of. And in my case, I was a crime victim, and I was accused by my perpetrator, which is what happens to a lot of abused men. And I was more traumatized by that experience than anything that's happened just directly to me. And I've been a victim of violence multiple times. I've been a victim of sexual violence multiple times. And I would rather go through anything else that was just done to me. And, you know, the only things that have been worse for me have been when bad things have happened to people that I love. But I'd rather anything else than to be falsely accused again. That experience was the worst. And I can't imagine how much worse it would be if the thing that I had been accused of was something that would make me a monstrous person in people's eyes. Like, that would have made it that much worse, because then it would have been humiliating. And it would have been, I mean, imagine people looking at you and thinking that you did something abhorrent that you recoil at the idea of doing. Yeah, you just have to understand, if you haven't been through something like that, if you haven't had your world turned upside down and been told that your whole reality is wrong when you can see it in front of you and you know it's not true, you can't turn around and say, well, I'm upset that they think it's worse than the experience of being raped, because you don't know. You don't know anything.
Well, it doesn't. Who cares?
And a lot
Like,
of those guys that have been through that experience have also been raped. They just didn't have any recourse because they weren't women.
Right. But I would also add to that, she is assuming that men would consider it worse, and she's just putting words in the mouths of men who are saying that being falsely accused is bad. But I bet you, if you guarantee you dollars to donuts, you go to any man and you say, what's worse, being raped or being falsely accused of rape? They'll all say being raped. So she's lying. I know that
men say that to me.
I'm sure that exists. But I know that most men would not say that. That's what I'm not saying what's true. I'm saying what men would say. Like, men don't want to say that it's worse to be accused. They will, dimes to donuts will say it's worse to be actually raped than being falsely accused. And what she is doing is
men will.
But that's most men. That's like the overwhelming majority. And the truth is that she is strawmanning men. Like, it's like the whole thing where if men's rights activists say men have issues, that we want to be addressed that are like legal or legislative or whatever, feminists will say men's rights activists think that men are the ones that are oppressed and it's women that are oppressing them. That's what I'm saying. Like they completely remove the dynamic and alter it to suit their narrative to make it seem ridiculous. Men would not, by and large, men would not say that it's worse to be falsely accused. I'm sorry if you don't like it. That's the truth.
Guy that's been jailed wrongly because of an accusation.
Yeah, and I'm sure that
there have been men who have been jailed for like over 30 years because of false allegations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if what she would say if she asked one of them and they said, "Yeah, if somebody had said, yeah, I'll tell you what, we'll make a trade. The allegation will go away and you won't have 30 years of your life taken away rotting in a jail cell, but you're going to get raped instead." Like they would take that deal.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, like, yeah, it would be better than going to jail for sure, for nothing. But what I'm ultimately saying is that I think that the average man would say that even if they had experienced it, they would say that it's probably worse to get raped than to be falsely accused of rape. But Bryrony Claire,
a lot of men would just kowtow to what the woman wanted them to say.
Yeah,
I think a lot of men would say what they don't argue with women like this. They say what they think is going to get them out of trouble. And of course, she probably surrounds herself with feminist men too.
That's true.
So they really believe it.
That's true. But I also think a lot of men would probably think that whatever affects a woman generally affects them more than whatever affects a man. So they tend to see themselves as more resilient than women. So men will generally take it on the chin and say, well, I think it would be a lot worse. But that being said, that's sort of irrelevant because Bryrony Claire is trying to straw man the whole thing. And I think that men would argue, and anybody with common sense would agree, that being falsely accused of anything is not good. But she is going to take that and run with it in a completely radical direction in order to make it sound as absurd as possible when she presents it by comparing it to actual rape or sexual assault. This is what I'm saying. She's lying, she's being dishonest, and to get lost in the minutia of like what a man would actually say misses the point of what she is trying to do. So let's get into this clip from Theo Vaughn and his talking to Candace Owens.
Tough time for guys. Yeah. You were afraid to shake dudes' hands. I remember that. You were afraid to even be like, it was scary. And you would try to speak up for friends that you didn't think did something or that you did. And then like you would just be back online.
Bros, we are in the stages of a censorship wave. It's women's fault that men are driven to rape in the first place because they're the ones that say no to sex. And you know what?
So you see what she's doing. This is what I'm saying. This is all manipulation. So the truth about what men would say or feel about it doesn't matter. Theo Vaughn was not at all unreasonable when he said, yes, the Me Too movement made it to where men had a fear of talking to women, approaching women, or even to having anything to do with them. In fact, the recruitment of female employees in certain jobs went down because men didn't want to risk the potential human resources disasters that could come from like men and women socializing in the workplace. And of course, feminists complained about that and called it sexism. And essentially, they were in a catch-22. There was nothing that a business could do. They either hired women and risked all the PR disaster, or they didn't and they risked PR disaster. So, and a lot of times, with this something that Bryrony Claire would never bring up, a lot of people use the Me Too movement, unions in particular, to get a bunch of men fired and replace them with women. So that basically, if the whole workplace, if the entire workforce is women, then nobody can accuse anybody of sexual assault or sexual harassment in the workplace. So we're good now.
Yeah, what she did there, if you go back and you replay that, nothing he said justified what she said. So it wasn't just it does matter what men actually say because she's putting words in their mouths and she's putting ideas as if those ideas are their ideas. She's stating ideas as if they're men's ideas when they are really things that are going on in her head. She is telling everybody who her demons are, but she's naming them after the men in the real world. None of this is real. This and honestly, this woman if you look at her, like, and I don't know why she put makeup on to make her eyes look even farther apart than they already are, but everything about her is very manufactured, very sculpted, very very fake, right? She's very carefully made up to look like the girl next door, but there's nothing girl next door about this woman. And the decor around her is very carefully made up to look whimsical and girly, but in reality, it's just basically imagery. It's just basically designed to create an impression. And while she has that totally innocent look, that wide-eyed, innocent, cute little girl next door kind of look, what she is doing is taking little bits and pieces of culture, video, whether it's movies or talk shows or this happened in a movie theater, news stories or whatever, and she'll play it, and then she'll state her narrative. And her narrative doesn't have any basis in what she just showed you at all. There's nothing about it that justifies what she said.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not connected. But you're supposed to have a connection in your mind between the two things because she put them together. It'd be like if I put a jar of applesauce up on the screen and then said, feminists use custody to drain men's wallets. Right? Well, maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but it has fuck all to do with applesauce. Right?
Yep.
What she said there is that men are somehow arguing this ridiculous idea that men feel entitled to rape because reasons, right? It has fuck all to do with what she showed prior. It's not related. The picture is not related. This is what I'm seeing here. I know the mask is there, but it isn't for me. It's off completely. This is a harridan who is just making a gish gallop.
Well, yeah, I mean,
in the most feigned, innocent manner possible of things that have already been said by other people. And she just put a few little sprinkles of culture in there, popular culture in there to make it look relevant and new.
Yeah, I mean, but basically she's saying that men's concerns don't matter when because Theo Von's clip he was basically saying, like, if you couldn't speak up for a guy that you knew was innocent.
Right.
And she's like basically saying, no, he was accused, therefore he's guilty. So, all right, let's keep going.
Term Zoomer takes on a whole new meaning now, doesn't it? A global study was conducted which showed men and women belonging to Gen Z are more divided than those of any other generation on key questions about feminism, gender roles, and women's rights. The study, based on a survey of nearly 24,000 people across 30 nations, has some surprising results. And I may need to retract my boomer comment actually based on the results we're about to see. These phrases were put to the participants and they had to say if they agree with it or not. A man who stays home to look after children is less of a man. The percentage of men agreeing was 12% of baby boomers, 18% of Gen X, 25% millennial. I'm disappointed in my comrades. 28% Gen Z. And women also answered. Sadly, yes, this is falling into a strict gender binary when it comes to this survey. 9% of baby boomers, 14% of Gen X, 22% millennials, 19% of Gen Z. Yikes!
So women, this is something we've talked about many times. Women have gone super left. Gen Z women, that is. But Gen Z men have basically just sort of maintained like a steady move away from feminism, really.
Yeah, so what she's complaining about is that in every generation, a minority of both sexes has believed something she doesn't think they should believe. And it's been a steadily rising minority for 3 generations for both sexes. A smaller minority among women than among men, because it's something that actually serves women's interests in some ways. And then in this latest generation, the pattern held the same for men, but something changed the way the women were responding. But it's still all like the largest number there is like what, 28%? It's like 2-point text on my screen.
Yeah, 28%.
Still a minority.
Yeah,
right? 28%.
still a minority.
That means that 72% are didn't agree. 72% don't think that makes a guy less of a man. And that's the guys. You know. So
well, the thing is, though, see, what she doesn't like is that there is 28% and that the number is rising. So ultimately, it doesn't matter that it's still a minority. It's too many.
yeah. Oh, it's like the feminist that argued with me the other day that only 2/3 of violence, domestic violence, and sexual violence in lesbian relationships is female perpetrated. So only the majority is female perpetrated.
Yeah.
When you get bigger than the majority, what do you want? 100%? Except that some lesbians live a lie with some guy before that they settle on women. So.
All right.
Women are holding on to aggressive views too. Do you agree with the statement, we have gone so far in promoting women's equality that we are discriminating against men? The percentage that agreed: men, 44% of boomers, 51% of Gen X, 56% millennials, 57% of Gen Z. Women, 29% of boomers, 33% of Gen X, 39% of millennials, 36% of Gen Z. Y'all, no wonder the younger straights are not finding happy relationships if there is this kind of a divide.
There's a division. Men are the ones that are facing the discrimination. Women don't see it happening because they're privileged to be exempt from it.
Or they don't care.
If you're not the one who can be accused of a crime that can carry a penalty of literal decades in prison and then denied the opportunity to submit exculpatory evidence in your defense, then you're not going to care as much. You're not going to notice as much that there's discrimination against the people who are the gender that are in that situation. If you're not of the sex that gets told in court, you're not a real parent and you don't get custody of your kids, then you're not going to see the problem as much either. You're not going to recognize that it's discrimination when you have a higher chance in court. You're not going to recognize that it's discrimination when you get extra benefits in hiring and promotion, that your boss has to give you a higher level consideration because of law and policy that's designed to prevent discrimination against you. So therefore, they're going to discriminate in your favor, right? You don't see that.
Yeah.
Privilege makes the privilege that you have invisible. Feminists tell us that all the time about men. And the funny thing is, they don't realize they're talking about themselves.
Okay, I got a Rumble rant and a Super Chow. So NobaFan21 gave us $1 Rumble rant, thank you. And he says, I've heard of the Steam game No Mercy. Well, I've heard the Steam game No Mercy, which is the game we talked about in this video, was made so it can get banned and be used as an example to ban other content. I forgot the name of the group that was responsible for it. Well, there you go. So it may have been a stunt to do something in Steam. And she, of course, responds to it unironically. But I would have to confirm that to confirm this true. And then Sleepy Aussie sent us a $40 super chow. Thank you. And he says, as Meredith G says often, here is some honey for the badgers. I'll catch up on the show later, but it looks like a good one. Well, thank you, Sleepy Aussie, for that. Really appreciate it. Okay. Let's get back to the video.
My goodness. And also, I'm going to be having to make a video addressing the women here, aren't I?
Oh my god, I don't believe it!
I think I need to.
I mean, that's just like the rules of feminism.
Globally, we still live under patriarchal rule. Look at all of the people in positions of power in Parliament, or House of Congress, or whatever it's called in your country. Look at how many CEOs, board members, and people in high management positions are men. And even for the same jobs, men still earn more than women. So categorically, men are not discriminated against.
Well, she's just saying women have. Look at the positions of power. That's all held by men. Therefore, all men have all the power.
Yeah, but all the laws are gynocentric. So
well, sure.
there's a like feminists. This is the same old shit, right? The fact that feminists say that men have all the power because men are in all the positions of quote unquote power. That's not what men are in. Men are in all the positions of responsibility, and in all the positions of responsibility, they are obligated to the people they are responsible for. That includes in the CEO position, they are responsible for their fellow employees, they are responsible for the investors, they are responsible for the consumer, right? And in the position of politicians, they are responsible for their constituents, and they are responsible for their nation's citizens. And they listen primarily to women's groups. Women exercise the most power in lobbying groups and pressure campaigns, not sitting in seats of responsibility where they have to listen to people come to them and tell them what laws they should pass. They exercise the most power going to the people who sit on those seats and saying, it is your responsibility to do this for us. So this idea that we live under a patriarchal rule because the people most beholden to women are men, or most often beholden to women are men, is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like it's old story, it's old news. They've been saying this for 100 years. It's been bullshit for 100 years. Right? And the wage gap is a myth based on the feminist notion that women should not be as accountable for their benefit to the workplace that they provide to the workplace in exchange for the money that they get paid as a man is. They don't want equal pay for equal work. They want equal pay for equal presence. And I think it's time we started fighting for employers to have the right to equal work for equal pay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's keep going. So yeah, it's just gonna be the same old thing. CEOs, world leaders, blah blah blah.
The apex
But I digress. Let's get back to the survey because this is very interesting. Men are being expected to do too much to support equality. Percentage of men that agreed: 44% of baby boomers, 54% of Gen X, 57% of millennials, 60% of Gen Z.
I think there's a better question. I think there's a better question than that. How about equality doesn't exist? Poll. How about that? Guys in the chat, equality, does it even exist? Is it even possible? And I don't mean equality under the law, because that's not what these people mean. I mean like equality in like everything in life: money, jobs, opportunities, housing, food, health, body shape,
The thing is,
all
if it was
of it.
equality of capability, if it was equality of what people do for society, and equality of performance, equality of giving, and so on, then why would men be needed to support it? Women would be doing everything that was needed in order to maintain that. They would be doing their half. And the only reason that they think men need to do more, and the only reason men are recognizing that they're being asked to do too much for it, is that women are not doing their half, because they are not equal.
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, it's a stupid thing to even ask. Men are being expected to do too much to support equality. Like, I don't like the question. What does it even mean to support equality? What does that mean? What is it? Are you just asking men to give up like their ability to earn? Because they don't really mean equality. Obviously, they mean like advantages for women. There's never a situation where it's like, oh, these men need to be matched with these women. It's always like equality. This is why equality is bullshit. I don't care if you're talking about equality of opportunity or equality of outcome, because all of it is predicated on the idea that you have to tear down whoever's doing too well in order to flatten so that like everybody is equal. So you're just removing people's incentive to excel. And it doesn't matter whether you do that as in terms of opportunities or outcomes, because the success of equality of opportunity is measured by the outcome. If you provide everyone with equal opportunity, but then the outcomes are different, guess what? People complain that the equality of opportunity is not working because the outcomes are different. So you end up back to square one. So it's kind of a pointless exercise. What we should be doing is understanding that people are different, and therefore they have different ability, and different fitness and different capability, and that these outcomes are fine, and that people have to be okay with wherever that means they end up. So like some people, they're not going to be fucking rocket scientists, they're not going to be computer engineers, they're just going to be garbage men, and they're going to work as electricians, or they're going to be mechanics, or they're going to drive cabs, or they're going to be the lunch lady, and they have to be satisfied with that. And we should not act as though that is a job that is beneath them to do, because that's where all this comes from. It's this idea that, you know, everybody should be like in STEM, sending like satellites to Mars. Guess what? Not everybody can do that. And you know what? That's okay. There's perfectly fine dignity in working the job that you can work, whether that means you're a seamstress or you make shoes or you work in a factory somewhere. It's fine. Like, and that's the problem with these people. They have this elitist idea that everybody should have access to everything, and that's just not realistic. It's just not. And it's actually bad for the people who could be perfectly fine doing something, you know, humble and with dignity, in my opinion. So anyway.
Percent of Gen Z, women, 31% of baby boomers, 37% of Gen X, 41% of millennials, 38% of Gen Z. This is the one I am keenly interested in focusing on. And this chart shows how much tension there is between men and women today, based on people's perceptions. South Korea.
So let's look at the chart. South Korea's got the most tension. Huh, no shit. I wonder why. It's probably because of the fucking insanely radical feminist movement that's running through there, doing all kinds of crazy shit. And of course, they're blaming the men, but she's gonna blame the men for that. And let's see, Poland is doing pretty good. Must be their karate president. United States is at 58%. That's not great. Let me see what else we got here. South Korea, South Africa, Thailand. Ooh, that's not good. Brazil, Mexico, Turkey, Peru, Colombia, India, Italy, Argentina, Australia, Chile, Singapore, Spain. Spain. Wow, that's actually, considering how feminist that country is, that's actually better than I thought. I guess the men of Spain just kind of cucked to it and just like, okay, well, I guess this is where we are now. Canada, pretty cucked. Ireland, New Zealand. Yeah, basically the further down you go, Belgium, Malaysia, that's either, and again, tension. I don't know how you measure that. So let me see. Nobafan just gave us another $1 and says, but we can only be successful if everyone's a doctor / lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw in London how it works out when nobody takes out the trash.
It says here this is from 2024. So 2024 to 2025. So not old, but maybe they haven't changed much. Okay, let's keep going.
They're ranked at the highest, aka the worst spot, which we know from the 4B movement and how sexist South Korean culture still very much is not a surprise.
Of course, she identifies
Yeah.
the sexist feminist movement there as a result and not the cause of the tension. That's funny.
Yep. And then this is also kind of funny. I think this is worth pointing out, which is a little bit weird. Let me go back just a little bit. Then she says this.
Surprise. Yeah, they also produce the most romantic dramas. Go figure. I know that's
maybe because you're wrong. Maybe because like it's like, so basically she says, well, they're obviously really sexist because look at the tension. It must be the reaction to the 4B movement. Yet they produce all of the best like romance dramas. Like there's cognitive dissonance, and she doesn't want to face it. Obviously,
it's. I don't think that it's that she doesn't want to. I'm starting to get the impression that she's not actually that bright. I don't want to make a dumb blonde joke, but
well, I don't even know that she's a natural blonde.
Those are the ones that you really have to look out for.
She is a feminist woman. I mean,
ones that are not natural blondes.
Just saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, Korean dramas are extremely romantic, yet men hate women.
some of you are Polish, yet you are ranked in the best spot, aka the lowest, with 25% believing this. However, from my discussions with you, you haven't really gone telling me that things are great when it comes to equality there. In fact, you've told me how scarily traditional things are there. And how
maybe that's because that's the reason why things are good. Have you considered that maybe Poland has the lowest amount of tension because they have the lowest amount of feminism? Like this is obviously true, right? Like let's look at this again. So she
You know-
says that Poland has the lowest tension, and she doesn't understand it because they also have like their most traditional country.
Actual tradition is men and women working together, right? Men and women being a team, men and women looking out for each other, not one looking out for the other and the other taking all the time, right? And feminists don't understand that. So they would look at it as scary because in a relationship that is actually traditional, both sexes have responsibilities. And they don't know how to handle that. Feminists don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to handle being expected to put in as much work as a man. They don't know how to handle being expected to sacrifice as much as a man for the family. And they certainly don't know how to handle being expected to be loyal to their family. And I see this all the time. I get into arguments with feminists on social media all the time, and they'll start talking about deadbeat this and my ex-husband that and blah blah blah, and then they'll start saying things like, "Well, you wouldn't understand. You've never been married." I'm a grandma. I have been married for decades. I'm old,
Yeah.
but my marriage didn't fail. I worked with my husband all those years to maintain a relationship and to maintain a family. And I took responsibility for being a wife and not just a woman in a household. And unfortunately, a lot of women don't understand that. They don't understand how to be a wife. They only understand how to be a princess. And, if everybody they don't even really understand how to be a princess because in real life, princesses have a lot of responsibility. They understand how to be a fairy tale princess.
Yeah.
Right? They understand how to be put up on a shelf or on a pedestal and worshipped and given everything that they ask for, but they don't understand how to give. In fact, if you
No.
expect them to, they get very upset.
Yes. All right, let's keep going. We're probably going to have to do a part 2 on this because this is a long video and there's a lot in this.
You haven't really gone telling me that things are great when it comes to equality there. In fact, you've told me how scarily traditional things are there, and how you deal with a great many hurdles of being taken seriously as a woman, trans, non-binary person at all, heck, especially when it comes to reproductive health. You've said it's really hard from business to personal relationships to workplaces to medical care. But hey, you tell me, I'm actually really keen. Did this capture things properly?
Struggling to understand, like, wow, you guys don't have a lot of feminism in Poland, and yet and everything's really traditional, and women are getting married and having lots of kids, and but why is there so little tension in this country? There's gotta be there's gotta be a solution to this conundrum. I don't understand. It's hilarious. This let's go, Poland. Let's go. Okay. We should be
I like
following
how
their
she was
example.
upset that not enough people were gender confused.
Yeah, right. Like what happened? Where are all the troons and like the non-binaries in your country? But they're not confused. How are you guys getting educated? Like what? That's hilarious.
Yep.
Based Poland. Okay.
Or was there potentially more of a skew into thinking everything's fine because we like things falling into traditional roles? Even though we know not everybody loves that. Yet most strange of all...
Yeah, those people can leave.
Yeah.
Like,
go someplace where
I understand that the UK is very progressive. Just go there, or Sweden or something. Just leave Poland. Like, she'll say not everybody likes that, but what she's really saying is it shouldn't exist. Like, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a country where they're traditional and everything is like working out for them and they're doing well and there's not a lot of tension and everybody gets along. But I don't like that it's traditional, so that's got to go. But I'm not going to say that's got to all go. So instead, I'm just going to say, not every woman likes that. All of a sudden, the nuance comes out, Not every woman likes that. Also, I don't hate all men. Just the ones who aren't helping, which is basically all men. But
yeah. Well, and what she's really saying there is, how dare these people be happy without my permission, right? They're not They're not living the way that I think they should have to live, and they've said they're happy about it. What right do they have to enjoy something that I disapprove of? So it's
Yeah.
kind of it's the same reaction that feminists have to the incest game, except in this instance, it's a reaction to a perfectly healthy lifestyle. Pair bonding with somebody who you make a bond with to love, and you raise a family together, and you're dedicated and loyal to each other, and you have each other's backs, and you live your life like that, and you enjoy each other's company, and you enjoy your family, and you enjoy your happy home. Like, how dare you, you perverts? Like, what? You know, it's I think feminists are allergic to happiness.
Yeah. So she's basically, this whole section is called Gen Z are regressing, progress made.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she's basically fearing that men and even some women of Gen Z, but I think that overall women are Gen Z women are really radical. Like, it's not even close. I mean, they're like performing violent acts and everything. Whereas the men are kind of like, they're trying to like find they're basically like unapologetically looking for a better way. So
The study is that a majority of people from each country said that achieving gender equality is important to them personally. The highest being in India is 78%, and no shocker here, the lowest being in South Korea, because once again, like I said,
So majorities in every country saying achieving gender equality is important to them personally. Again, gender equality is a bullshit term. It doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. And so if you ask someone to answer a question that's a bullshit question and they don't question the premise of the statement at all, then you end up with this. Now, India is the highest, right? So it says here, very important. I wonder, because India has a lot of serious problems with feminism as well, which is like the men's movement there
Yeah.
is so prominent.
Well, when
So
you have a gender war, there's, both sides of it say they want gender equality. And this is just people answering a question and saying they want gender equality. It's just that what MRAs mean when they say they want gender equality is that when you walk into a courtroom after being accused of something or accusing another person of something, that the court judges the case based on the evidence in the case and not the sex of the participants. And that's gender equality. That if somebody makes a false allegation, that there's some sort of repercussions, and it's not just swept under the rug because the accuser is female and the accused is male. That would be gender equality. You're held equally accountable for your actions. Equal accountability is gender equality. Equal agency is gender equality. So when men say they want gender equality, they're talking about equal agency, equal accountability, equal opportunity, not necessarily artificially equalized outcomes, but that people can at least shoot their shot. Whereas when women say they want gender equality, what they really mean is female power. They want the court to give them a pass if they do something wrong. They want the court to give them a little bit of extra consideration if they accuse somebody else. They want the court to give them a little extra consideration if they've asked for something or sued for something. And they don't want to be held responsible or accountable when they make a false allegation or when they commit
yes.
any other kind of crime. They don't want equal accountability. They don't want equal agency. And they want opportunities to be reserved for women, separate from men, so that only women get those opportunities. And they have their arguments for why they think that constitutes equality, but it doesn't. And they're wrong. They're full of shit. And so, of course, both sides are going to say that equality of the sexes, achieving equality of the sexes, is very important to them. We already
But they might mean
achieved
different
that,
things. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
We already achieved that, and then feminists got mad and had a bunch of laws passed to undermine it. And
Mhm.
I think the same thing may have happened in India, only they found much more effective ways than the feminists in the United States.
I got a super chat from Richard Bier for 5, and he says, how many men are practically chased out of caring for even their own children because they're perceived as predatory? That
A
video of a
rather large
soldier,
number.
that video of a soldier picking up his child while supporting her under her backside comes to mind with the comments.
There was a story that went around the men's rights subreddit a few years ago, back when I was still heavily involved there, that was of a guy who had taken his daughter to the park. Just a dad took his daughter to the park, let her play, and was going to take her home. And people at the park assumed he was some creepy pedo stranger that didn't have anything to do with this kid, and beat the hell out of him in front of her for associating with her. And there was another one where a guy went on vacation with his daughter, and because he was traveling alone with a young girl, even though she looked like him, you could tell that was his daughter just by looking at the pictures. The clerk at the hotel called the cops, and this guy went through this investigation and was arrested and everything in front of his daughter. And it's the creep shaming that happens with dads when they go someplace with their daughters. It's insane. It's very aggressive. And yeah, there are instances where judges treat dads like it's creepy that they want access to their own children so that they can raise them to be the best adults that they can be. And you're like, why do you want to spend so much time with children? You're a man. Well, they're my children. I want to teach them, how to be responsible adults. Well, you leave that up to their mother. That's not equality, and it's not tradition. It's feminism.
Yes.
It's something that feminists fought for. The Tender Years Doctrine was written by a feminist. Her name was Carolyn Norton, and she used an appeal to God as her argument. The will of God is that mothers will raise the children during their tender years. That was her argument, and God made it that way, and so therefore it's right. So all you atheist feminists out there, you rely on an argument for God's authority to maintain the status quo of female custody.
Which is in no way Christian. It's just that was just the vehicle that was used.
It was a false argument.
To get that. It was a false argument, yes.
I mean, Carolyn Norton is a fine example of an argument for, in support of the tradition that didn't allow women to be teachers. Especially not of the faith.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, let's play one more clip, and then we're going to wrap it up here, and maybe we'll do like a part 2.
Sexist society, sadly. Not everyone thinks that way, but it's how the systems are definitely set up there. And that lowest statistic was at 52%. Granted, it's still a majority, but only slightly. As this study clearly states, this divide is often fueled by politicians and media who capitalize on a zero-sum game narrative, framing the advancement of women as the cause of broader societal grievances, such as the decline of well-paid, secure jobs. What the hell has been happening
in actually be really challenged? When feminists say that, and they use the phrase advancement of women, they are lying. Okay, having the power to do wrong with no accountability is not advancement. Having no accountability for your not just your wrongdoing, but your failures, that's not advancement. Having no accountability personally for your self-disappointment, not advancement. All of those things are being undercut. That's having your legs cut off and being told that it's so that you don't injure your ankles. Right? It's bullshit. Women, they complain about the fact that there are not enough female CEOs and not enough female politicians. If women cannot be as accountable for themselves in every other aspect of their life as men are in every other aspect of their lives, if women can't even handle being responsible for their own choices, as where men are responsible for their choices and women's choices, then of course women aren't going to be able to handle the process of becoming a CEO, and they will drop out on the road, or they will not impress the people that they are trying to impress on that road, and they'll end up getting lost. right? Or they'll think of themselves, they'll position themselves too high up, well above the idea of service, which is what a CEO does and what a civil servant does. And so they won't do those jobs, even if they have them. It's not advancement. It's handicapping.
No, it's
The handicapping of
infantilizing.
women.
Yeah.
And it's making women dependent on men, codependent in ways that they're detrimental to women, they're detrimental to men, they're detrimental to children, and they are detrimental to the structure of the nation that they're in. So every nation that's going downhill right now is going downhill because of this shit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to stop it there because we are at the 2-hour mark just about, but we are, this is going to be, we'll do more of this video because there's more to it. There's a section called The Manosphere is Dangerous, which I think we have to respond to.
Dangerous.
And then it said, there's a section called It Starts at Home, It Starts Young, which is basically saying propagandize your kids early, but you're not going to have kids. So let's see if that goes anywhere. And then it's a men's issue. She's going to make the case that, like, you know, essentially propagandizing and putting men through struggle sessions is a men's issue because that's what this is ultimately about. So anyway, we're going to end the show there. So I want to thank you, Hannah, for coming on and responding to this cancer with me. And I want to thank you guys for watching. And yeah, we'll try to do more of it next week. So for now, though, actually, wait, no, next week's not going to work because I'm going to be out of town. I've got to go
I
to.
won't be able to either because
Yeah. Well, next time we do one, we'll next time we do one of these. So stick around for that. But anyway, with all that said, we're gonna end the show there. Thank you guys for coming on. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame with Hannah, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.